Hey guys, welcome back. This is Jerry with the Sensible Survival Solution. And we're going to do some more pressure canning today of a vegetable you might not have heard of. It's called a pink eye pea. I had to laugh because I never called them pink eye peas growing up. We called them purple hull peas. And I can tell you, I have shelled these things until my fingers hurt. I was so glad when my mom finally brought home a pea sheller that all we had to do was feed the peas through instead of sitting there and just, oh gosh, I don't think those are good memories of shelling the peas, but eating them, that's something else. So we're going to start off with 8 pounds of frozen peas here that we've let thaw. This is from our local vegetable grower. Let's give you a close-up of it. 8 pounds is from a company called Southwestern Produce that we get here locally. These are this is 8 pounds. We're going to cook them similar to a black-eyed pea. They're similar in texture, similar in looks, but they have a little bit different taste. We're also going to use 5 jars that we'll start with, and then we'll probably wind up with 14, 15 type of these jars with this amount of food. But these jars I've used before. These are out of the dishwasher. We had used these before for another vegetable. I've also got the lids over here on the stove. They're heating up now. I'm going to reuse these lids. So I've done the prep work in that I've cleaned everything. I've hand washed the lids and inspected them. And I was going to show you this lid. It didn't pass. Now you can probably see the dents on it from previous use, but the rim here, there, see if we get this a little close. You can see they're kind of dinged up. So I don't trust this one to hold a seal. So we're not going to use this lid. And if you're worried about running out of lids because they get damaged like this, don't. Because you can always go buy the replacement lids. So don't worry about throwing these away, because you can get replacements without having to buy just the entire jar. I'm also going to use regular mouth jars versus wide mouth because they're about $1 a case less than the wide mouth. I can get 5 of the regular mouth in my canner where I can only get 4 of the wide mouth in. And so we really just use the wide mouth jars for meats. Vegetables, we always use the regular mouth. I got my spices set up. I'm just to take a break here, go over and rinse these off, get all the debris off of them, and then I'll bring you back and we'll take the next steps. Okay, I'm back. And this is about 3/4 of that bag that I poured out. And I've rinsed them off, got the debris. And that's important because I've had times where I had foreign debris in my, particularly in my dried peas, so beans I get from the store. So I like to wash them off, get them rinsed off. And this is a good time to remind you to always use safe canning practices and sanitary practices. I wash my hands with sanitary soap prior to starting the process. This counter is clean and all my utensils and all that have been sterilized. So I'm trying to do the right way. So this one is going to be slightly different in that I'm going to add some different seasonings to this to make it a little bit spicier. This pea is a little more mild than a black-eyed pea. So I'm going to use a little more oomph, if you will, to get it going. I'm going to show you the spices, some of the spices. This is a Cajun spice that we use called Tony Chachere's. It's from a little town in Louisiana known as Opelousas, Louisiana. I used to live there, and this is manufactured there. Cute story about this. The first time my wife and I went on a date, she invited me over to her house for cooking, and I looked into spices and saw she had her Tonys, and I'm like, oh, she's the marrying kind. I got real bacon pieces. Of course, I got my Tabasco, chipotle flavored. This adds a little smoky kick to it. And I'm also going to use, in this recipe, I'm going to use chicken broth. And I'll add a teaspoon of this to each one of the jars. And you might wonder why I'm using chicken broth. Well, it adds a real good flavor we've tried it before. These are green beans that I cooked canned about a year ago, and this has chicken broth and bacon in it. We use these real regular, and that dadgum stuff is good. So I recommend you actually experiment with some of your cooking to see if you like these different flavors mixed in with your pressure canning. So we started off with, I'm going to put in my chicken broth, and I'm going to use this spoon to measure out roughly a teaspoon in each one. A teaspoon usually makes 1 cup of chicken broth. So this is actually, when I mix in the water for the canning, this is going to then create a chicken broth inside that jar. Next up, I'm going to use my Tony's. Use 1/8 of a teaspoon in each one of these jars. It doesn't take a lot, and this is actually a salt substitute. So if you don't want to use Tony's or don't want to have that extra kick, just use 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, and you'll be fine with that. So that's that. Bacon pieces. Just a few pieces in each jar. You don't have to get crazy with it. We're not canning bacon. We're just adding a little flavor to the vegetables. And then finally, the Tabasco. I use this in a lot of my cooking. I sneak it in a lot of times with the family doesn't know it. They love the food when I cook it with it. They don't really know it's got Tabasco in it. I'll use this in my when I do smoking of meats. I'll put this in the brine water. I'm telling you, you can't breathe the fumes. It chokes you. The peas. Here, it's a good idea. Let's just show what they look like. Yeah, here we go. This is obviously mixed with green beans, but that's what they look like up close. It's just what I used to know is a purple hull pea. They're sometimes called pink eye peas. So I'm going to fill each one up to where it just touches the bottom of this funnel. That is 1 inch from the top, so that's a good measure. You want to have a 1 inch of a headspace at the top. When you're done with this portion of it, that's really all there's going to be the adding to the jar. At that point, it's just add the water, shake it up, and go. I think I mentioned, but I want to say it again. The reason I do 5 jars on this session is that's because that's what fits in my canner is 5 jars. The length of time that we're going to cook these came out of the pressure canning guide for peas and beans. So now that I'm done with that. So now it's time to add the water. You want to add the water to the same height as you have to the bottom of the funnel. So it's the same height as the foods you have in there. 1 inch from the top. Oop, almost got that too full. We also can a lot of different vegetables. I've got others in the freezer now that are getting ready to go through this process. I've got baby limas, I've got corn, yellow corn, I've already done white corn, and some kind of lima bean. So now we're going to wipe off the rim of these jars. A lot of times you'll get debris on the top. My bride calls it goober. So we're going to get the goober off of the rim of the jars. Alright, that's done. I've had the lids on the stove over here. They've been heating up. You do that so you'll soften up the rubber seal, so when they go on the jar, there's a much better chance of them sealing properly. Forgot to do this. You want to get your little stick here and stick in here, and that's going to release any air bubbles. You go around the outside of the jar, and that just, if there's any air in there, that'll release that. I've had times where I've done this and actually was able to put more product in because I had such an air pocket in there. Those all look good. Okay, back to it now. The rubber seal. Using my little magnetic stick, I'm going to pull it out, and then now the rubber seal around the outside is a little gummy, so that sticks on to the jar and giving you a much better chance of having a good seal. I generally don't have problems with seals not taken. I just don't. Even when I'm reusing lids, because I've done the inspection to make sure that that lid is in good shape. All right, there you go. Okay, there's the purple hull pink eye peas. There's the stuff at the bottom. Now I shake mine up just to get it stirred up a little bit. Now you'll see a little bit different color water, but that was done. Stick it in the can and go from there. Now the cook time on this is a whopping 40 minutes. And I say that because that's not really much. When you think about if you were to cook these over the stove or in a crock pot or something like that, you're going to cook them for about an hour and a half. So this pressure canning not only cooks them faster, but allows you to have then a seal that will last for years. Even though I don't know that these are going to make it that long. You've heard me talk about a project where I'm doing a housewarming gift. Well, this is part of that. So there, now I'm going to pour my water in to where it's about a quarter of the way up that jar. There we go. That's it. There's one thing I haven't done, and that's my vinegar. Let me go find that vinegar, and I'll be right back. Yep, that was a quick edit. There it was. You want to add the vinegar to the water, just a shot. That will keep the hard water from sticking to the side of the jar, making it kind of powdery. You don't want that. So that now the water and the vinegar is ready. You may have seen this in previous videos, but this is the lid that goes on. It's got a little button right here. This is what's going to seal and lock the lid so it won't be able to come off. This is a vent setting or a pressure setting, so a cook setting. So we're going to leave this on cook and cook this under about 11.6 pounds of pressure. That's what this pressure canner does. I set it on, set the lid on, and turn it, and now this lid is actually locked as far as lifting. I can't lift it off. I can still turn it because it's not under pressure. When it comes up to pressure, this will lock, and I will not be able to turn that any longer, and it will then cook. I'm basically at sea level. I'm like 125 feet above. So I can cook it 10 pounds of pressure. This power cooker actually cooks at 11.6 pounds. When you're boiling inside this, under that amount of pressure, you have to come up to about 240 pounds, 240 degrees, in order to kill the botulism and any other organisms to make this safe canning. So 10 pounds is the minimum. I'm over 11, so I'm good on that. It's going to come to above 240 degrees. We'll go cook it for 40 minutes. So the way you start this timer is you press the pressure cook setting. You show 10 minutes, then you adjust it up to 40, and then you forget it. What's going to happen now is you'll see the dial start to kind of rotate, and that's showing that it's coming up to pressure, coming up to heat. It's going to now take about 10 minutes to come up to pressure. This will then seal, and then the timer will start for the 40 minutes. We then let it go the entire 40. It will then have an alarm to let me know that it's ready, but I'm not going to open the lid. I'm not going to release this pressure. Part of the cook process is they heat up 40 minutes and then they cool down. So it needs to come off of pressure naturally. So don't get in a hurry and start venting this thing. Don't do that. Let it cook and then come down. That's the safe way of doing the candy. So at this point, I'm going to now go off camera. I'm going to finish fixing all of the jars for the next series that I'm going to do. Let this thing come up to pressure and cook, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it later. All right, here we go. The timer's gone off. Let's check to make sure that there's no pressure by turning that knob that I showed you earlier. There's no steam coming out, so there's no pressure. It means I can now unlock this lid, take it off. I'm going to do so and let the steam go away from my body so I don't get burned, because these things are still blazing hot in here. Here we go. I'm going to use my tongs now to pull these out. You can still hear them sizzling, and on the top, a little hot water. But that's let's see, yeah, that you can still see them bubbling. They are hot as blazes in there. So I'm gonna put these on a towel so they don't burn my counter. So as they cool, the pressure then will suck that lid down, giving it that popping sound that's indicative of a pressure canning. I actually can hear these things bubbling. It's pretty hot. I also realized, I told you earlier that these were going to be a gift. I realized that these have green beans in them. My son, who this gift was for, he don't like green beans. So guess what, son? You don't get these. We'll just keep them for ourselves. Nutritional value in this is still there. They're just cooked. You're not losing anything on this. They are safe. This was pressure canned at over 240 degrees for 40 minutes. So it is now sterilized and clean inside. And as they then suck down, they will seal, and they will then be good for our short-term food storage as well as our long-term. We will keep these years if need be. This is how we pressure can. This is how we do our long-term and short-term food storage. Since I started doing this, I haven't bought vegetables down the vegetable aisle. I haven't gone down that aisle of the grocery store at all. We just go walk in our pantry and pick out what we want. We eat this every meal. Eat something like this every meal. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you see how easy this is. Well, there's one just popped. So this is such an easy thing for you to do. It does cost less. These servings here in these jars will feed 3 adults. 4 if you put it with something else, but 3 adults is what we generally feed with this these pint jars. So you're getting more volume than if you bought a 12-ounce can at the store. You're now getting a larger amount of food in one of these jars. That bag that I showed you earlier that we started with, 8 pounds, that cost me $17 at the local store. So for us, this is a lot less money, better tasting food, and it is truly a heat and eat meal. When we get ready to eat this, it is just pop the jar and start eating. Heat it if you wish, but during a grid down situation, this is how we're going to eat. We're going to pop these jars open and spoon them out. This is something I hope you get into and start doing yourself, because I know you'll enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and then help us build this little channel. We're growing all the time. Thanks, guys. And here's the end result. 15 jars, washed, sealed, and labeled, ready to go into the food storage. Thanks for watching. Please like the video, help us build our channel by subscribing to it, and remember to always be ready, be prepared, and be vigilant.